So I finally made my first trip out to Utah, the land of the Mormons. I've heard many good things about Utah. Some people have told me they think that Colorado is the most beautiful state. Other people like Utah more. So I knew I would come out and check it out eventually, and it's no doubt super beautiful. I had some mutual friends that were planning to go out there in the beginning of May anyway. They mentioned it was good to go then because it gets too hot in the summer. So I figured I'd check out the main sites like Arches National Park, Canyonlands, Dead Horse State Park, and then there's obviously a lot of other little things around and some cool hiking trails. And actually that trail we did the last day might have been my favorite just because it was a little less touristy and I liked walking into the canyon with the green areas and stuff. So anyway, here's my trip to Utah. So it's about a 6-hour ride to Moab from Denver. All along the way you've got some nice scenery. You first go through some of the big mountains in the resort areas like Val, which were all pretty snow-capped still for the most part. I stopped in a place called Rifle, a very fitting American name. Right nearby there is Rifle Falls, which is quite pretty and only about 15 or 20 minutes out of the way. If you're in that area, it seems like a nice place to camp. There's only a few spots there, so I'd definitely book ahead if you're going to go over there. And then just down the road you have Rifle Gap State Park, which has a big reservoir, and that also looks like it has a few nice camping areas too. The scenery around that area in Glenwood Springs is kind of like green and farmland for the most part, and then it gets a little bit drier. But then you have some pretty cool mountains and stuff just right before you got to Utah. I passed by the border and then I headed less than an hour down to this little tiny town called Thompson where there's this old hotel. They've been serving people since 1936 and served the travelers, miners, railroad workers, truck drivers, and tourists and people who have come through the years. It's definitely pretty basic, but it's still almost $100 for a room. That's kind of the case everywhere in America these days. It's really hard to get anything much less than $100. I also liked it not only because it's rustic and kind of in the middle of nowhere, but it kind of had an artistic feel too. Each room looked quite different, and I had the plant room, so it was kind of neat. And then down the hallway you've got a little kitchen that you can use. And outside there's an area people could hang out, and then there was a bunch of people camping either in their tents or RVs, so not a bad stop if you want a little cheaper option than most of the things around Moab, which I guess are about another hour away or so. Just north of the hotel a few miles you have some sandstone cliffs of Sago Canyon, and there's some old petroglyphs that were painted by Native Americans over thousands of years ago that were kind of cool. Apparently, Kay Whipple must have been one of the chiefs from those ancient times. I'm just joking. Some asshole had to sketch in their name, obviously. I then headed over towards Dead Horse State Park and the Canyonlands, which are basically next to each other. Dead Horse State Park is smaller, but still has some nice views. Then you could go around to the Canyonlands, which is also really nice. It looks pretty cool. You could drive down in a Jeep or your car, I guess, and I didn't go down that way, but I'm sure there's other cool hikes down below. I just went to the main sites, but it was still really pretty. You definitely want to be careful when you get to the ledge of any of these areas, because obviously they're high cliffs. And it's not like they have a lot of fences or anything to protect you, so you definitely want to be careful around some of these cliffs. I then headed back to the campground that evening to meet up with all the others that were camping, which was cool. We had some drinks and had dinner, which was nice. Everyone was in a festive mood for sure. The next morning I went out to check out Arches National Park, which is just north of town. And quite touristy, but still quite nice. You could drive up to a lot of the places, or you could hike for like an hour or two to some of the spots, like Delicate Arch was nice to walk up to. And then at the north end of the park, you've got the Devil's Garden trailhead, which goes to Landscape Arch and Double O Arch. So I only checked out a few things in the park, but I definitely got the idea, and I'll go back and check out some other things. The next day we hiked in the Grandstaff Canyon, which was awesome. That was only about 2.5 hours or something like that. And there's an arch at the end, and that was a really cool hike. I like walking through like the water, and it was green down in the area where we walked. And then with the canyons on the side, it just seemed more spectacular because at places like Canyonlands, I was above looking down, and so it wasn't like the canyons were next to me. So that kind of made that trail quite nice, and maybe was my favorite of all of the places I went. Moab looks like any other tourist town for the most part. It's just a bunch of dune buggies, people on bikes and motorcycles, which seem to be the main things around town. But if you need to get some supplies or get a hotel and stuff, they've got pretty much everything you need there. So it's definitely an awesome trip. I still probably like Colorado a little more, although I haven't seen Zion National Park and quite a lot of other amazing areas. Generally speaking, I'm more into like the green areas and trees and alpine lakes. Obviously, Utah for the most part is more dry and arid. Up in the north, they still have big mountains and pine trees and stuff like that, but definitely an amazing place. Still one of the prettiest states I've been to. I really like the different scenery, compared to Colorado, and I'll come back like once a year or twice a year and check out some other areas. So yeah, if you're in the States, and so many people usually go to like LA or Chicago and New York and see the cities, you really got to see these awesome parks in America, whether you're in Utah, Colorado, or Wyoming, or Yellowstone, or Yosemite. There's so much cool stuff to see in America. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, like and subscribe. I've got a lot of other cool things on my channel besides travel, like my experiences living in China or commercial fishing, in the Army, hiking the Appalachian Trail, and advice on, long distance biking, hiking, and stuff like that. So anyway, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.